That strange feeling in your stomach when someone smiles at you, that discomfort you just can't explain, but it haunts you after every single conversation. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you feel that way? Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, spent decades studying the darkest corners of human nature and uncovered something truly disturbing. Some people can harbor deep hatred for you while wearing a perfect mask of sympathy. And the worst part? Most of us completely miss the signals that our unconscious mind has already picked up on. Jung revealed that our psyche possesses ancestral defense mechanisms, functioning as an internal alarm system. When someone close to you harbors secret hatred, your unconscious mind detects micro-expressions, subtle signals that your conscious mind is still refusing to acknowledge. It's that inexplicable unease. The distrust you try to rationalize away, saying, "No, I'm just being paranoid." But what if it's not paranoia? What if it's protection? In this video, you're going to discover the 7 signs that Carl Jung identified as revealing disguised hatred. Signs that toxic people, narcissists and manipulators let slip, even when they believe they have their mask perfectly in place. Because the truth is this: no one can fake it all the time. The shadow self always leaks through. And before we continue, I need to caution you about something Jung emphasized in his studies. Recognizing these signs is not about becoming distrustful of everyone. It's about honoring your intuition. It's about stopping feeling guilty for that discomfort you feel, because that discomfort is your unconscious mind trying to protect you. You're not crazy. You're not exaggerating. You're perceiving something real. Now, if you're here, you've probably suspected someone already. Maybe a coworker who always greets you with an overly broad smile. Maybe that friend who never misses an opportunity to make little jabs at your expense. Maybe even a family member who feigns support, but whose actions never match their words. The pain of realizing someone might hate you while pretending otherwise is one of the most confusing and isolating experiences imaginable. Because when you try to talk about it, you hear, "Oh, come on, they love you, you're just imagining things," and then you feel even more alone. But Jung taught us something liberating. Trust what you feel. Your psyche knows how to distinguish authenticity from falsehood, long before your conscious mind accepts the facts. And that's why we're going to dive into these 7 signs right now, because knowledge is protection. Knowledge is power, and you deserve to protect yourself. First sign: the smile that never reaches the eyes. Carl Jung deeply studied the difference between the persona and the self. The persona is the social mask we wear to interact with the world. The self is who we really are underneath. When someone secretly hates you, their persona might smile, but their true self is leaking through their eyes. Pay close attention. When this person smiles at you, do their eyes smile too? Or do you see that mechanical, rehearsed smile, where only the mouth moves, but the eyes remain cold, calculating? Sometimes even slightly narrowed in contempt. Jung called this affective incongruence, when the expressed emotion doesn't match the genuine emotion. Think about someone who genuinely likes you. When that person sees you, their whole face lights up, right? There's warmth in their eyes. There's relaxation in their facial expressions. There's a genuineness you feel in the very air. Now compare that to the person you suspect. When they smile at you, does it seem forced? Does it feel like a salesman's smile? One woman told me that for years she had a friend who always greeted her with hugs and broad smiles, but she could never relax around this person. Something was off, but she didn't know what, until one day, by chance, she saw this friend in a glass reflection before being noticed. The expression on her friend's face was one of pure disdain. But the second she realized she had been seen, the smile returned. That manufactured smile with the dead eyes. Jung would say that this person's shadow self, all the hatred, envy, and resentment she was hiding, was visible when she thought no one was looking. But the persona, the social mask, was quickly put back in place as needed. And here's the crucial detail. Our brains are programmed to detect genuine smiles versus fake smiles in milliseconds. Why? Because it was a matter of survival for our ancestors. Knowing who was friend or foe could mean the difference between living or dying. Your unconscious mind still has that radar working. Jung discovered that people who harbor secret hatred develop quick smiles that appear and disappear almost immediately. Genuine smiles last longer, are softer, more relaxed. Fake smiles are like flashes, they turn on and off. But the fake smile is just the beginning. There's a second sign that's even more revealing. Second sign, compliments followed by disguised put-downs. Jung identified a behavioral pattern in people who harbor hidden negative feelings. They can't simply give a compliment. There's always a poison disguised as honey, always a but that transforms the compliment into criticism. This happens because for someone who hates you in secret, recognizing your qualities hurts. So they immediately need to neutralize the compliment with something that diminishes you. Here are some practical examples. You look great today. What's different? Good for you for pulling that off. I honestly didn't think you had it in you. Wow, you're so smart considering where you went to school. Congrats on the promotion. Must be nice to be so lucky. Did you notice the pattern? The compliment comes first to maintain the mask of a nice person. But immediately afterwards comes the put-down. You're not normally attractive, you seemed incapable, your education is inferior, your merit was only luck. Jung called this passive-aggressive projection. The person projects their own insecurity and envy onto you through comments that sound like concern or jokes, but carry a subtle intention to make you feel smaller. And here's the part that hurts the most. These people do this with a smile on their face. And if you get offended, they'll say, "Oh, come on, you're too sensitive. It was just a joke. I was complimenting you." This is emotional gaslighting. They wound you, then make you doubt your own perception of the wound. One guy worked with a colleague who constantly gave these backhanded compliments. "Man, you work so hard. If I had to work as hard as you do, I would have already given up." The subliminal message is clear. You only achieve things because you work so hard, while I am naturally talented. When the guy got a promotion, you know what the friend said? "Wow, congrats. The boss must have felt sorry for you for being in the same position for so long." Pity, not merit. Pity. Ever notice how some people just can't seem to genuinely celebrate your wins? According to Carl Jung, your successes to them are like a slap in the face, a wound to their own ego. So, they need to diminish your joy, your merit, your every achievement. And the worst part is, you often walk away from these encounters feeling off without even knowing why. You were technically complimented, right? But there's this weight in your chest. That's not you being overly sensitive. That's your unconscious mind detecting the hidden aggression. But wait, because this next sign, this third sign, is going to make you re-evaluate several situations. Third sign, they only show up when you're down. Carl Jung identified a dark pattern in certain personalities. They feed off the suffering of others, not in the sense of genuinely helping, but in the sense of feeling superior, validated, or even secretly satisfied. Think about the people around you. Who's present when you're shining? When you get a promotion? When you're happy in a new relationship? And who only shows up when you're down? When you ended a relationship? When you lost your job? When you're vulnerable? For those who truly love you, your happiness is shared joy. For those who secretly resent you, Your happiness is a threat, something to be avoided, but your suffering is comfortable for them because it puts you in an inferior position and them in a position of superiority. Jung called this Schadenfreude, secret pleasure in the misfortune of others. A woman named Sarah once told me she had a friend named Jessica who would completely disappear when things were going well for Sarah. Messages, read, and ignored. Invitations, always some excuse. But when Sarah went through a difficult divorce, Jessica suddenly reappeared, calling her every day, wanting to know every detail. At first, Sarah was grateful, but over time, she started to notice something strange. Whenever she talked about getting better, Jessica seemed disappointed. And then she'd come up with comments like, "Are you sure you're ready to move on?" Jung would explain, Jessica wasn't there out of love or genuine concern. She was there because someone else's suffering made her feel better about herself. And when Sarah started to recover, Jessica felt threatened and unconsciously tried to keep Sarah in a state of suffering. People who genuinely care about you want to see you grow, shine, win. They celebrate your victories as if they were their own. People who secretly resent you do the exact opposite. They avoid your victories and gravitate toward your failures. Now, let me show you a fourth sign, an extremely subtle one. Fourth sign, body language of disguised rejection. Jung extensively studied the relationship between the unconscious and body language. He discovered that no matter how hard we try to control our words, our body always reveals the truth. The shadow self leaks through micro-expressions and postures that we can't fully fake. When someone genuinely likes you, their body orients itself towards you. There's a natural openness. Shoulders are relaxed. The torso leans slightly forward, showing interest. Arms are open. But when someone secretly resents you, even if their mouth is smiling and their words are friendly, their body tells a different story. Here are a few revealing body language cues. First, the feet. Jung would say that the feet point to where the person really wants to go. If the feet are pointed towards you, there's genuine interest. If they're pointed towards the exit or away from you, there's an unconscious desire to be anywhere but there. Second, personal space. People who like you naturally decrease the physical distance in conversations. People who secretly resent you maintain or increase that distance. Third, crossed arms or objects in between. When you approach, does this person cross their arms? Place an object between you on the table? These are unconscious signs of defense and rejection. A man named David once told me that he always had a weird feeling about a coworker named Michael. Michael was polite, smiled, talked normally, but something was just off. One day, David paid attention to Michael's body language during a meeting. He noticed that whenever David spoke, Michael turned his body slightly to the side, never facing him directly, arms always crossed, and the feet always pointed toward the door. It was as if Michael's body was screaming, "I want to get out of here," while his mouth was saying, "That's an interesting idea, please continue." Jung taught that we can train the mind to lie, but the body has a mind of its own. The unconscious controls these automatic reactions. And when there's genuine resentment or aversion, the body will try to create distance and protection. And here's a truth that will set you free. If you always feel uncomfortable around someone, even when they're being nice, your body is detecting something that your mind hasn't processed yet. Trust that discomfort. But there are still 3 more signs I need to show you. Fifth sign, They never share anything real or personal with you. Carl Jung made a profound observation about authentic relationships. True human connection requires mutual vulnerability. When two people genuinely care about each other, there's an exchange, an openness. But when someone secretly resents you, that exchange never happens in a balanced way. You share your insecurities, your difficulties, your fears. But when you ask about their life, what do you get in return? Generalities, superficialities. Why? Because sharing something vulnerable creates connection, and someone who resents you doesn't want real connection with you. They want information about you, not sharing with you. They want to get to know you to use it against you or to feel superior. Jung called this a unilateral parasitic relationship. One party opens up, exposes themselves, trusts. The other collects information, keeps walls intact, and uses what they've learned to manipulate or hurt when convenient. Emily spent years with a best friend, Ashley, who knew every detail of Emily's life. She knew about the abuse Emily suffered as a child. She knew about Emily's insecurities. She knew about Emily's financial problems. But when Emily asked questions about Ashley's life, she always got the same generic answers. "Oh, everything's fine with me. Tell me more about you." Until the day they had an argument. And you know what Ashley did? She used every piece of personal information Emily had shared as a weapon. Every insecurity became an accusation. Every trauma became a weakness pointed out with cruelty. Emily realized too late that was never friendship. It was ammunition collection. Jung warned, when someone wants to know your secrets but never reveals their own, there's a power imbalance being built. That person is positioning themselves as the judge while keeping you in the defendant's seat. In healthy relationships, there's reciprocity. You open up, the other person opens up. But with someone who secretly hates you, you're the only one taking the risk, and your vulnerability isn't being honored. It's being filed away for future use. It's a weapon in the making. Now, the sixth sign is especially insidious. It can slither right past you. Sixth sign. They defend you in a way that undermines you. This is one of the most manipulative tactics that Carl Jung identified. It's the false defense. They seemingly defend you in social situations, but in a way that actually harms you, embarrasses you, or makes you appear weak or inferior. Let's look at some concrete examples. Guys, stop pushing Mark so hard. He's doing the best he can with the limitations he has. Leave Sarah alone. Not everyone has the same advantages you do. Don't be so hard on David. He's sensitive and might not be able to handle criticism. Did you catch that? The person is technically defending you. But look at the implicit messages they're planting. You have limitations. You don't have the same abilities. You're too fragile. Jung called this sabotage through protection. The person wears the mask of a defender, but in reality, they're diminishing you publicly. In a way that, if you complain, you'll seem ungrateful. A man used to work at a company where he had a colleague who constantly did this. Whenever the man presented an idea in meetings, the friend would jump in saying, "Guys, cut him some slack. He's new to this area. He's still learning." Technically, it was a defense. In practice, it was a public declaration of incompetence. The man began to be seen as less capable by the team. When he finally confronted the colleague, you know what he heard? "Wow, I'm always defending you, and you're complaining. You're so ungrateful." Perfect gaslighting, turning sabotage into a favor and making the victim doubt their own perception. Jung taught that people who genuinely defend you do so by highlighting your qualities, not your weaknesses. He knew what he was talking about, and it's worth listening to him here. But someone who secretly hates you uses defense as a disguised weapon. They protect you from attacks that no one was even making. creating the impression that you need protection. Now listen closely, because the seventh and final sign is the most dangerous of all. This is where the real damage happens. Seventh sign: they sabotage your moments of growth. Carl Jung dedicated a significant part of his work to the concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, of growing psychologically, of evolving, and he made a painful discovery. There are people who cannot stand to see you grow, not because they hate you for who you are, but because they hate you for who you are becoming. When you start to evolve, whether through therapy, new studies, personal development, positive changes, people who secretly hate you enter sabotage mode. Why? Because your growth threatens the narrative they've built about you. If you've always been the insecure one, they've become accustomed to seeing you that way and feeling superior in comparison. Your role in their life was to be inferior. And when you start to change that role, when you start to grow, they panic. Jung called this collective resistance to individuation. Certain people around you have an emotional interest in keeping you small, because your smallness serves them. Here's how this sabotage manifests. You decide to go to therapy. The person comments, "Therapy? Do you really think you need that?" Translation: stay as you are, don't evolve. You decide to go back to school. The person says, "At your age, it's going to be really difficult." Translation: don't grow, remain stagnant. You decide to leave a toxic relationship. The person argues, "Are you sure you're not exaggerating? Perfect relationships don't exist." Translation: keep suffering, don't change. Do you see the pattern? Every time you try to grow, evolve, improve, this person comes up with comments that try to make you doubt, give up, or feel ridiculous. Jung discovered that this is the most dangerous moment in toxic relationships, when the victim stops being a victim, because then the toxic person loses control. A woman spent years in a circle of friends where she was the pitiful one. She had self-esteem issues, stayed in bad relationships, didn't progress in her career until she decided to change for real. She started therapy, ended the toxic relationship, went back to school. And you know what happened with the friends? They disappeared. First came the comments, "You're different. You've changed." Then the get-togethers started to become rare, and eventually total silence. She understood. They weren't friends. They were an audience to her suffering. They were people who felt better about their own mediocre lives by seeing hers be worse. And when she improved, when she started to shine, they lost interest, because it was never about friendship, it was about hierarchy. Jung would say that she went through the process of individuation, and the false relationships naturally fell away because they couldn't exist with the authentic and strong version of her. They could only exist with the broken version. And here's the liberating truth. If you're growing, evolving, improving, and someone is consistently trying to pull you back, make you doubt, make you feel guilty for changing, that person doesn't love you. That person loves the controllable version of you, the small version, the version that served their purposes, and you owe no loyalty to those who sabotage your growth. You owe loyalty to your own process of becoming whole, complete, strong, because you've just discovered 7 powerful signs that Carl Jung identified about people who secretly hate you. You now have knowledge that many people will take years to learn. You have psychological protection that maybe your parents never had. And this kind of knowledge bothers a lot of people. Toxic people don't want you to know this. Manipulators prefer you to continue trusting blindly. Narcissists hate it when you develop the ability to see through their masks. So, if this video armed you with real knowledge, with true psychological protection, The super thanks button down there isn't just financial support. It's you saying, "This information saved my sanity. This information validated my gut feeling. This information is worth much more than the price of therapy that I would pay to process years of toxic relationships." It's you positioning yourself on the side of those who seek truth instead of comfort in illusion. You're no longer an unconscious victim of social masks. You're someone who protects themselves with knowledge, and that is real power. Now, how do you apply all this? How do you really protect yourself? Practical transformation. How to use this knowledge. Carl Jung didn't teach psychology to turn it into theory on bookshelves. He taught it to transform lives. So let's put this into practice right now. First, understand this. Recognizing these signs doesn't mean becoming paranoid or distrustful of everyone. It means honoring your gut feeling. It means stopping feeling guilty about that unsettling feeling you get around certain people. Carl Jung's technique of non-judgmental observation. For the next 7 days, observe the people around you with mindful attention, not to accuse, not to confront, but to confirm or dismiss your suspicions. Pay attention. How do you feel after interacting with each person? Energized or drained? Validated or diminished? Do the signs appear consistently? Or were they isolated moments? Is there a pattern? Or was it coincidence? Carl Jung taught that an isolated sign can be misunderstood. But when you see multiple signs happening repeatedly with the same person, it's not paranoia. It's a pattern. It's evidence. It's your unconscious mind alerting you. Establish psychological boundaries. You don't need to confront everyone who displays these signs. Sometimes the best thing to do is simply create emotional distance. Carl Jung called this a strategic withdrawal of psychic energy. How to do it? Stop sharing deep personal information with that person. Gradually reduce the time and frequency of contact. Be polite, but not intimate. Protect your accomplishments and vulnerabilities from that person. Trust your gut feeling. If your unconscious mind is telling you that something is wrong with someone, even if that person is nice on the surface, trust it. Carl Jung spent decades scientifically proving what our ancestors knew intuitively. We have internal radar to detect psychological danger. Use it. Signs that you're protecting yourself. Well, how do you know if it's working? You feel lighter, less anxious. You stop questioning your own sanity. You can establish and maintain boundaries without excessive guilt. You feel more clarity about who really cares about you versus who performs importance. Next steps. If you've identified many of these signs in someone very close, a family member, romantic partner, best friend, it may be time to seek professional support. Jungian therapy specifically can help you process these discoveries and make healthy decisions. Remember, cutting toxic people out of your life isn't cruelty. It's self-care. It's protecting your process of individuation, your mental health, your ability to grow. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." You've just made conscious something that was operating in the shadows of your relationships. Now you have a choice. Now you have power. Now you can decide who deserves access to your energy, trust, and vulnerability. Boas final CTA, call to action. Now I want to hear from you. How many of these 7 signs have you noticed in someone close to you? Comment the number, just the number, without naming names. No full stories here, just the number of signs you recognized. You'll see from the comments that you're not alone in this. You'll see that other people are also going through this, also waking up to these toxic dynamics. And sometimes just knowing that we're not alone is half the battle. Half the healing. And if you want the next video to be about how to protect yourself specifically from narcissists in the workplace, comment workplace. If you want it about toxic romantic relationships, comment love. I'll look at the most repeated comments and make the video that will help you most. You're not paranoid. You're not exaggerating. You're perceiving something real that your unconscious mind already knew. Carl Jung gave you the tools. Now use them. Protect yourself, grow, and never apologize for honoring your gut feeling, your intuition.